to be discussing this evening?
No.
No. Okay, hearing none. I would like at this time the permission of the board to add an agenda item, which is I neglected to touch base with Paula about adding an update to the tax sale information, which we're gonna hear about, I think, this evening as item 11, if that would be all right with y'all to add that on.
Yes.
Great, so moving forward, item number 3 is minutes. We all have, so I call for a motion to approve the meeting minutes for Monday, May 18th, 2026.
I had one comment or,
First week.
oh, sorry, I apologize.
No, you're good, you're good. So she's gonna move.
Second.
Second, and now, yes, please jump in.
Yes.
Okay, item 15, almost all the way down to the bottom. This scope of work will test, find out. I'm just wondering if there was something missed in the recording somewhere for clarification.
Oh, yeah. This scope of work will find out if. It's one sentence.
Okay,
So let's get rid of test. Let's get rid of that period after find out. Let's lowercase that I, because then it's this scope of work will find out if any well is above.
You'll test to find out.
To find out. If so, we can add if so before the town. So now the sentence reads as such: this scope of work will test to find out if any well is above the 4 parts per trillion. If so, the town will take next steps to figure out remediation.
Second one?
Functional sentence, I think.
yes.
Okay. Does anybody have, thank you, Eamon. Does anybody have any other edits? I mean, like, there's always a couple, but I try not to, if it's like, oh, the period should be inside of the quotations, or the comma should be inside, that we're just like, do that, because that's too much.
I just figured there may be something more.
No, that is a real one. That's a good one. Yeah, yeah. I'm just talking about when I first started
Sure.
on any of these boards, I used to do like every period, and I was like, oh, I'm driving everybody crazy. Yeah, I was, yeah. Okay. All in favor of approving these minutes as amended?
Aye.
Okay, so item 4 is warrants, I'm sorry.
I have 2 others.
Okay. I'd like to call for a motion to consider check warrant report 26028 in the amount of $61,755.01.
So moved.
Second?
So now I'll read from this warrant amounts in excess of $2,500. The first is to vote on paving in the amount of $4,897.75.
That's road repair on Church Street. DPW.
Hayden Plumbing and Heating, $13,832.
That's the Shaftsbury Fire Department cost of the new boiler, which was in their budget.
It's in the budget.
This year.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Repro, 4213.85.
That is reappraisal postage for a mailing.
Great. I'll read one at random here, which is Sycamore Landscaping, $1,600, invoice 131.
That is the mowing for offices and parks.
VLCT Passive, $21,851.75.
That's our quarterly installment paid for property casualty and workers' comp insurance.
Does anybody have any questions or comments about this? All in favor of approving this check warrant? While it's moving along, I'd like to call for a motion to consider check warrant report PR 24 in the amount of $20,921.51.
So moved.
Second?
Does anybody have any questions about this payroll warrant?
No.
No.
All in favor of approval? Aye.
Aye.
And then this one is for that payroll warrant, and it's the HRA card, and it's Beamers, which is retirement, taxes, and that's another retirement plan. And, yeah, benefits.
So I call for a motion to consider check warrant report PRW 11 in the amount of $23,091.96.
So moved. Second.
And I just want to call out for the record here that of this $23,091.96,
Yes.
the employer expense portion is only $8,221.21. The rest are deductions from paychecks. All in favor, does anybody have any questions? All in favor of approval? Aye. So that is warrants, right?
That's it.
So we're on to item 5, which is announcements. So would you like to start, or would you like me to start?
I have one quick one. The cemetery fence project is underway. I think they took most of it down today, if not all of it, on 7A in Cleveland Ave, and that will be finished this week. And just want to remind everyone that we are saving most of the fence for one of the other cemeteries that has the same fence, so we are doing our best to preserve that. That's it.
Yeah, that is great. I'm glad it's underway. I have, my first announcement is I just wanted to issue a thank you to Marlene Hall and Ben Hewlett and Bud Krozik for putting together a really exceptional Memorial Day parade this year. It went great. Also a thank you to the firefighters, to the Mount Anthony Union High School band, to Father Hugh, who delivered a prayer in advance of the parade, and so many others who really helped out. It was a really rainy morning, and it turned out to break just in time. And it was great to be out there with so many members of our community and of the North Bennington community to offer remembrance for those who have lost their life in this, the line of duty for the United States in peacetime and in war. So thank you.
So, and thank you for your wonderful speech at the beginning. It was,
I was
it was
nervous.
really good. It was really good. It was, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, yeah.
And I was going to thank actually Ben and Bud, because without them, I could not have pulled this off this year with everything that I had surrounding us. So,
Yeah. It was really a community effort, and it was, I
Yes.
felt lucky to be a part of it, so thank you. And then my other announcement, this is something that maybe we'll talk more in depth about at the next select board meeting, just kind of came up in conversation. But I know that the sign outside of the office is contentious, it's temporary. It was just really put up for the purposes of being able to tell where the town office is. Not a lot of thought was put into the aesthetic of the sign since it's temporary. We were kind of talking, Naomi and I were talking, and I talked to Paul a little bit, and I talked to other people who I heard feedback from about the sign and what that should look like, not really in specific. And so I had the idea, or you had the idea, there is the idea that perhaps it would be a good idea to come up with a way to solicit community feedback about what that sign should look like. And so maybe that would be a subcommittee of the select board that takes recommendations. Maybe that would be something else. But I definitely think that that's something that should be taken to the town, and we should receive feedback from members of the community who are interested. Because I know that there are probably a lot of strong feelings about it. And I think it's a good opportunity for people to say what they think would be a good idea, especially longstanding members of the community. And I think that would be very nice. So I think maybe we'll touch base more on that later. I don't have any specific ideas, but that's just my thought. Hearing from people being like, "What is that?" or what,
it does jump out at you, which is nice, because we need people to know this is where you turn. The other sign's going to remain the same, correct? They're not changing. The dental office is not changing their sign.
I don't think he has plans to, but I bet if we talked about it and we offered to pay for it, which I'm not saying we should do, just to be clear, but he's pretty flexible about a lot of sort of things like that. And so maybe that could be a discussion, but I'm not sure. I think at this time, yes, his plan is to keep his sign and keep all of the aesthetics
So it
as
should be
they are.
something that goes along with.
It could go along with it. Yeah, I think that would be aesthetically a good idea.
Yeah.
And maybe we could refurbish that sign too or something, just to
Yeah.
kind of with the same idea as the other sign that just got like a touch up. But yeah, it could be a good idea for the aesthetic to be similar, or the size is certainly the same. So.
Right.
But yeah, thank you for calling that out. But yeah, that's just a thought, so. Any announcements from anybody else on the board?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank the board and the CCDC and their residents for this building. It's amazing. We're really happy here and we're glad everything's on one floor and it's wonderful and I don't think we've said that enough. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you to the voters of Shaftsbury.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you, Jen. Okay, item 6 is public comment, so this time let's open up the floor.
I don't know if this comes under other comments or if it's something under new business for you all, but I think a lot of us were taken aback when we saw the news about the solar panels up on Wade Cemetery Road. And it has certainly those of us in the area wondering if that has given any pause to the situation right across the road from it in the major industrial size solar display, if that is something that will come up on a state level. I know this seemed to be a surprise to everybody that, wow, didn't know this kind of thing could happen, but it did.
Yeah.
And
I'm happy to speak to that, if you'd
Yeah.
like. Just with my direct experience to it, not any speculation about it. So, yes, the Wade Cemetery Solar Project has been basically on the ground since fall. The board has been aware of it, the Agency of Natural Resources have been aware of it, and the PUC has been aware of it. Abutting neighbors, a few of who have reached out to me and to Representative Durfee, had various concerns, which I addressed to the PUC about, and then when there was a fire, which the time that this really became something that we talked about at the select board most recently was in early April, because there was a fire on site there on, I believe, April 12th in the evening. It was a Sunday, it was about 5 p.m. I got a call from Joe Vatican. I drove up the hill. He and the guys had just left. They were able to put out this brush fire behind the array. It's a sizable array. They had trouble with access when they arrived. The fire was a result of arcing because that array, what happened to it is statistically very uncommon. In industry speak, it's called unzipping. They are axis tilted panels, which I'm not sure what's been proposed at Holy Smoke, but it's possible it's a similar product. And what happens is when one corner takes up, they all kind of go. This should never happen. This is a direct installer error. Any product that is installed correctly would never do that. I think part of, well, actually, I'm not going to think. I'm just going to continue to say things that are factually true. So at that time, I was on an email thread with David Durfee, with Joe Vatican, and members of the board tracing down who owns the array because it's a land lease. Often in case these are land leases, I believe the Holy Smoke project is actually, they will own the land, but in this case on Wade Cemetery Road, it's owned by a couple of people who live in town and they lease it to somebody, a developer. The developer built the project. The project failed almost immediately upon installation, which means there was a very serious, probably a combination of engineering and installer error. Really, really, really should never happen. I just want to clarify that as best I can. The wind shear up there is strong, but that shouldn't do that anyway. I have never seen anything like it. My boss went to go look at it, who's worked in the solar industry for 26 years. He's never seen anything like it. I got in touch with the owner of the array. He lives abroad, or the representative for the company that owns it, which is called Nexcom Group, which is an Israeli telecommunications and defense group. And I spoke to Shai Harel about it. He said that they would remediate the issue and that they would start taking down the panels. A lot of other people were copied on this. It was not like just me doing this. And the PUC was made aware of it. And then we started speaking with Mr. Vatican, with Chief Joe Vatican, about what to do for the existing arrays in town to make sure that there aren't access issues like that again. I actually am meeting with Carlin Mickle, our zoning administrator, and Joe Vatican and Paula on Tuesday at 9 a.m. to start working on a comprehensive plan to have a list of all of these projects and start complaining to the PUC about the fact that if they want to run these projects through without any level of town approval because they go right above us, they need to really amp up the level of protection that they're providing. They need to standardize like how, they had to cut a lock. They couldn't get in there. And even though the way that solar works, as many of you know, even though that array was disconnected in 3 different places, it was still producing. And because nobody ever forced, the PUC, who's been aware of this, never forced these owners to go, these foreign owners, to have their local team go and unhook every panel, which would stop this issue. They didn't do that. And what they said in the filing with the PUC is that they did not do it because it was deer nesting season. I'm pretty sure that's not an adequate response at all. And the fact that the PUC accepted that excuse from the developer, to me, is very strange. Obviously, I became aware of this really late in the game of all of this kind of taking place, and have done my very best to kind of facilitate and work with the board and with the, chief of the fire department to see what I, as just one person, can do, and then what we as a town, with the zoning administrator and others, can start to do. With regards to Holy Smoke, I know that which is Shaftsbury Solar, on Holy Smoke, and I believe that the developer there is called Freepoint Solar. I know that they're in litigation right now, or they're not in litigation, but they're in the appeal process once again with the PUC. I know that the PUC will take under consideration what happened at Waite Road, or Waite Cemetery Road Solar. And I can't speculate as to how they will decide or find, but I know that several members of our community are super concerned and have been speaking out. And I encourage more people to do so with however they feel. But I will once again stress that what happened, and maybe one of the things that might be one of the questions that I would ask if I were an abutting landowner, would be what the product and technology that they're using is, who is doing the engineering, if the engineering is being done stateside, if the engineering is being done by a third-party firm out of India. That is a practice that takes place. That would be the sort of stuff that I would start looking into as someone who knows that the PUC is the ultimate arbiter here. It's safety questions that would probably be the first questions that would come to my mind, and making sure that something like that happened here in our town will not happen again, and it would not happen again, it will not happen again if the measures that are in place through these manufacturers are followed. So a lot of these panels and racking, these other products, are not rated for this climate. Like, there's all sorts of ways that somebody can do this wrong. And the last thing I'll say about Waite Road Cemetery, oh my gosh, anyway.
Waite Cemetery
Road. Every time I say it, it's just like too many words. Is that project was initially developed, the development project, it has changed hands like 4 times. iSun started it, I think Encore started it, and then iSun took it over, and then iSun went through liquidation. They were purchased by some oil and gas guys out of Texas, I think. So the process of the engineering and build there was definitely a lot of hands, and so that's something that I would wonder about with the PUC as well. Because when these arrays are built, which they're built all over the country, all over the world, successfully, this just doesn't happen. And so that's a question too for Freepoint, which is what they intend to do to make sure that there's a contiguous team on the ground of engineers and designers and installers who are working together and ensuring that all of the specifications of their racking and their inverters and their modules are being followed appropriately, especially for that landscape. Because there's a lot of solar in Vermont and in other places in the country that are extreme in climate, and what happened there should never have happened.
And in terms of, let's just say that it did happen, or it happened to a certain extent. When the approval went through, is there coverage, liability that is on the part of, because what I read, there was something about the insurance and they were waiting for insurance. I mean, had that, I think it was Joe who was quoted as saying, had they not been able to control it, it would have gone up Glastonbury. We all incredibly value our forests, our land, all of that. And, I'm looking at communities around the country where there have been devastating natural occurrences and they're still not getting money to help bail people out. So how are these, have you all had a chance to look at I'll call it an insurance policy or some kind of guarantee that, God forbid, something does happen that shouldn't happen, but does in a major facility like this,
That the town
There is
is-
coverage for the town to recover.
That's a great question. I looked at all of those filings kind of a while back. This all took place sort of before I was on the board, so I looked at it kind of retroactively. I think that the way that that would work, but, well, I don't want to speak out of turn. I know that the array itself, of course, is insured. I know that the land underneath it, of course, is insured. What recourse towns have is a great question. I would assume that the answer would be similar to that in most scenarios, which would be litigation against the people who own it, which in this case is Nextcom Group.
So that would be the town having to kick in funding to fight some major corporation. like-
But I don't want to misspeak, so I think it would be useful to take another look at the host town agreement and other documentation that, we got very little, say, which is very frustrating from all perspectives, right? Because that's a great question. And when I went to that site and I went around the back of the array and I saw that it was on the back of the fence and I saw that it was just starting to get warm and that we were in the height of wildfire season and we were entering it, which my emails were very strongly worded, not that words are that useful, but I made it very clear in this one particular case, right, that this could have burned all of that down. It very well could have, and we are very fortunate, and I don't want to discount that at all, like that was luck, and that also the brave and hard work of our fire department was, critical, and that it put them in a horrible situation, in a dangerous situation. And so that's something to definitely look into. And I wonder what the PUC does require. I'm not a commercial solar developer expert or anything like that. I've just tried my best to catch up with a situation that is kind of out of my depth. But that's a good question, and maybe one that we can direct to I can look into it, also look at maybe what the PUC.
Would you recommend, Zoe, and the board that residents ask those same questions of the PUC?
Yes.
We're not abutters, but, we're certainly, we have land up on Glastonbury, that area, so, it just seems like it would be important for the PUC to have some answers around that.
I think
for
so.
us. Okay.
Another thing that I think is interesting, I think the PUC should actually be hearing from all of us more often about everything. The PUC is an appointed board of people with various levels of corporate experience, and they work with the utilities to set our rates, which went up 9% last year. They make agreements like the one in 2009 that made projects like this possible, where you build corporate, like large solar arrays and then sell the produced electricity to out-of-state entities. There are these things, and some of these things are good, don't get me wrong. But I think that they are appointed by the governor. Well, I don't think that that's true. And I think that therefore they do work for all of us. And so I think the questions about safety and standards are ones that they should absolutely be answering. They're public officials. And I know that when you speak to like the clerk of the PUC or other people there, they're very much they're following the rules that their jobs are outlined to have them do. So I think it does have to go a little higher. And I would, urge people to reach out about these kind of questions about safety and stuff like that. And I'll take another look at the filing and see myself what equipment was filed for. I'm pretty sure, but since it's through section 248, I don't know how much they have to list that's public, so I should take another one. It's a little different.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Been thinking about it. But yeah.
Oh, no, I figured you were. It was a shock, honestly, to read it in wherever we read it.
The Vermont Digger.
I think, just a couple of weeks ago.
It was in the Digger, and then it was in the Banner on the 28th.
I hadn't realized in October that whole thing had happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
And it's very frustrating.
It's troubling. It's really troubling.
It's really troubling. It's very frustrating. And another part of it that was frustrating to me was the element of, I still don't know who the people were who went up there to service that array. I wasn't given a date on when they would go service that array. Shai Harrell answered me from his Tel Aviv office in the most perfunctory manner that he could, and he did do his job. But, I drove up there a week later and I emailed back and I said, hey, I haven't seen any work. I drove up the hill. You said it would start right away. You said that you would begin taking down this array, because the reason that people don't do things is because of money. and they were waiting to, because it does cost a lot. That is a very large array, and I've actually never seen anything like it. It's wild what happened up there. And so that is a lot of work to take down, to unhook and lay down each of those panels so that wind shear doesn't catch them. It's a lot of work. And so this was a moment of somebody not wanting to be holding the bag on that one. So.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay. Item 7, DPW report.
I have that.
Alrighty.
Okay. Mike says just regular road maintenance as of right now, mid-June. They'll be starting a couple of big projects, which will be explained in the next report on the 15th, and he will be here to explain them.
Awesome.
They're not starting those projects yet because they're waiting for culvert pipes and materials to be delivered, and this is all grant work. Road grading, Perrin Road, Hidden Valley, Mountain View, Glaston View, Daniels Road, Town Line Road, and Lower East Road. Roadside mowing has begun and will continue on the west side of Shaftsbury. Once we finish, we will begin at the east side. Culvert replacements, Maple Hill, Birch Hill, and Perrin Acres. Gravel hauling for summer projects. Installing Welcome to Shaftsbury sign that was just refurbished. Cleaning up old cemetery fence with Jen Holly. Equipment maintenance and groundskeeping at the shop, mowing the landfill. The DPW is hiring another crew member that was in the new budget. Applications are on the website, or email Mike with any questions.
Awesome.
Yep.
I have one actually follow-up quick note. The email addresses for the PUC commissioners are available on the PUC's website. I have emailed one of those gentlemen before about like complaining about something, and he did reply. So just wanted to throw that out there. Item 8, Melanie, would you like to join us for the treasurer's report?
Take one, pass it down. I have them in paper.
Hello.
Hello?
Oh, so we just have hard copy?
You want a hard copy too?
We have enough, everybody has one? Okay, can we look at the cash flow first? Something that I had said might happen did happen, which is we got the final cash flow for both of the, for the education funding. So it turns, as you can see that down towards the education reconciliation, we did get almost $88,000, and that's in the, it's just, as I've said before, for the schools, that's rounding error, but for us, it's nice to have that this time of year. That's just the final reconciliation, so when we sent our taxes to what we collect on behalf of the schools, when we sent it in, they did not have a final cash flow. That comes in May, and so that's just an adjustment there. So that's from Mount Anthony and from the SVSU. So that's helpful this time of year. The other big number there is water receipts. Water payments were due last week, so that's why it's such a large number there. They are now late. I believe that as of today, Tiffany has applied the penalty, but that's a good number. I think we're doing better with collections. There's still, you'll see on the next page, we're still not where we want to be, obviously, but that was a big month for collections. I don't think there's anything else significant happening there. We looked down, I did do the budget status for what it's worth, for reasons we've discussed many times. Both revenues and expenditures are sort of overstated versus budget this year for reasons we have discussed many times. So that's why you see that both revenues and expenditures are quite a bit higher than budget. No new information there. If you want to look at the cash by fund, we're at just about, we're at negative 58,000 in the general fund, which is about where we were last month actually, because the final cash flow on education tax brought in more than we would have expected. So we actually brought in about as much as we spent in the past month. If you look down at the 260 line, I think at its worst, that was at about 160, negative 160. The reason it's quite a bit higher is, as I said, we're getting, water bills are out there right now, so that's about as low as it's going to get probably for a while. The Listers Fund is down from where it was at its peak, but I think that the costs of the reappraisal are pretty much in, and the big expenses are probably in there by now. I'd have to talk to Gina about whether she expects anything major, but I'm still a little confused by that, and I meant to talk to Paula maybe, but are we expecting a paving grant?
I think Mike is, yeah.
Okay, because we're
Yeah,
still
there are a
sitting
couple of-
with...
He has a couple of them outstanding.
Okay, because
that are
we're sitting,
coming
if
in.
you look at the very bottom line there, you can see we're sitting with a negative
Yeah.
60,000, which sort of implies to me that we should be expecting
Yeah.
something for that. Any questions about any of that?
No.
Okay, the only other thing I wanted to mention is I'm still getting calls every day, probably 1/10 as many as Gina is getting, with people wanting to know what their new tax bill is going to be. And I want to reiterate, I cannot predict that until we have a final grand list. And until we have a final grand list, we cannot set what the tax rate will be. So if people call me for anticipated taxes, all I can do is say probably like last year, but a little bit more, but don't quote me. That's all I can say. So I appreciate people's patience, but we just simply cannot mock up a new tax bill for anyone yet. It's just too early.
Makes sense. Okay.
Any questions about anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So moving on to item 9, we have an update on that said reappraisal from our assessor, Gina Jenks.
Yay. All right, so we had the informal hearing meetings last week. That was lovely. We did about 118 people. For the 90% was great. They were very nice, pleasant, and respected the assessors. It was very loud in here. We're going to have to reschedule or rethink how we do this in 6 years, because we have to do this every 6 years now. It was too loud, it was too disruptive. Having to go through the town clerk's office to get to my office, to get paperwork, to have people do meetings back there was very disruptive for Marlene's office, for zoning, and for me.
Which we had talked about. We knew, that's why we wanted it changed. That's why we wanted the layout changed. We knew it was going to be a problem.
Yeah, and it was worse than we expected, honestly.
It was.
It was very loud in here. We're gonna have to do something different in 6 years. That it's only gonna get worse, because everything's gonna go up even more. And we'll probably have more than 118 people come in. June 15th, 16th, and 17th, which is a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're having grievances. So if people wanna do a grievance, formal grievance, they need to fill out the grievance application, get it into me, call me, make an appointment. They can email me that. It has to be in before June 15th, the paperwork. We have the 3 days, every half hour, we'll have an appointment. If we need more assessors, we'll get them. We're gonna do whatever we can to make sure everybody's happy. They have small questions, they can call me. I'm happy to help. I have an idea. If there's something I don't know, I'm not gonna blow smoke at them. I'll tell them I don't know, and then I'll get the assessor's information and get back to them. But everybody has a right to grieve. If they don't like it, they don't understand it, come in. And because I want it fair for everybody, and if there's mistakes, totally let us know. And they can, like I said, they can call me, I can walk them through what we have for the information, if there's something wrong. I mean, simple things like bedrooms, that's not going to affect the value. But if you have more bathrooms or less bathrooms, that will. If we say you have 3 and you only have 2, that's gonna affect your value. Let us know. That way we can make sure it's correct and that there's nothing that is a mistake, because there was so much wrong when the guys went out and did this information, and everyone's like, oh, well, nothing changed. Well, we didn't have the correct information to begin with, so something changed, and we want to make sure it's fair, because every 6 years is going to come real fast. And if we clear it up now, it's going to go faster and hopefully less expensive coming down the pike. And that's another thing we have to think about, is starting putting money away, because the state gives us $8.50 per active parcel. So since they make us put all the land contiguous, if it's owned by the same person and touches, we're getting $8.50 if you have 3 pieces of land instead of the $28. So that's what goes to our reappraisal fund. If you figure out we paid close to $200,000 just for Nimerick, divide that by 6 and actually divide that by 4, because we start paying again in 4 years. So we're not going to get all that money back from the state. They have plans to change things, but the way it sounds like they're only opening it to $11, and that's per active parcel, not per parcel. And that takes a lot of money, because there's certain people that have a lot of acreage and a lot of plots, and if they have 10 pieces of 10 parcels, we're getting $8.50 instead of $88.50. That's huge. This is coming out of our residents' pocket, so we need to figure it out. That's all this lovely stuff. But after grievance, I'll let you know. Then it'll be the end of the month when we have the grand list frozen, and then Melanie can make up the tax rate, figure it out. Till then, we have no clue.
Can you freeze that before we have BCA hearings, if somebody wants to go that far?
I don't think so. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I'd have to ask Nate, because I know our grievances are done by the 19th. Maybe,
But then they.
because they have 14 days to do the PCA, but that would get us to the end of June. So I don't know. Because we don't have the reappraisal. I've never done this before. So I've known we've done BCA before, but it's only been like 3-4 people.
Right. So
We have no idea out of what we're gonna have.
I remember 16 years ago, there was a lot of people.
There's a lot involved.
Yeah.
So you have to then schedule site visits.
Hear the reports.
BCA members.
Yeah,
I mean, that itself took like
long time.
well over a week just for site visits.
I'll ask Nate, because I think your next meeting is our first day of grievance.
Okay.
Well, I should know by
The
then.
15th.
Yeah. Yeah, so that would be fun. But it'll work out one way or another. But yeah, we're gonna have to figure out something, because this is not working. It's not gonna do well at all. I don't know what we're gonna do, because the walls are where they are, but you know, I'm not trying to be a brat here, but we work here. I know this is a new building, but we still have a clue of what's going on and what the employees should have a good say in certain things, and we weren't listened to, and it made a big headache for us. And-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I really am not trying to be a brat about it.
No, no,
But I want my voice heard.
Yes, always voice your concerns.
Because when it comes to this, you guys make the rules and figure out what we need here, but us and the DPW, we kind of run the place, and we see everybody, and we try to help people as much. And when it's loud and chaotic, that's not helping anybody, and it
Absolutely.
really makes it stressful.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sorry about that.
And then having perverts come in, that's always great too. So, yeah. So, yeah, I need hazard pay for that, please. That was
so
Melanie.
much, Gina.
Any questions before I go? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So item 10 is an update on zoning fees from our zoning administrator, Carl Mickle. Yeah, who it looks like he's not here, so we're gonna bump that one to next time.
I just want to note that we really need to put that on another agenda to discuss the question of how to keep, potentially put money aside.
Yep, I have it, I wrote that down.
Okay, item 11, which is an update on the tax sale information, which is gonna be delivered by Tiffany Mays, I believe, right? Got one of these.
Take one, pass it on, and then this one is for you, I think. Did you take this?
Looks like there's enough to pass now.
Take one, pass it on.
Yeah, there's one for everybody with the email about it, as well as the tax sale list with the parcels and principals and all that.
And I printed out Tiffany's email with all the information
Okay,
from her and Holly.
There's actually 2 pages
Oh, are there
to
2
this,
pages?
so let's
Yeah.
just pass
Thank
it
you.
back. Take that.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. You should all have a tax sale list.
Yes.
There's 13 parcels on here with a combination of delinquent taxes and delinquent water. The only thing that I have notes to point out on is that 2 of them are possibly going up for, have closing scheduled. My recommendation is to leave them on the list because if the closing falls through, we don't have to go through this again. And there is one owner who's contesting the charges, which will have to be discussed at a water board meeting. But again, I think it's wise to leave it on the list so that we don't have to readdress this. Do you guys have any questions about any of these properties or the balances really? I don't know anything about the properties themselves.
I personally do not have any questions.
Okay. That's pretty much it then. The only thing that we are asking is the delinquent tax collector has decided to go ahead and put all these properties on tax sale. So we are asking you as the select board to pay the $50 per parcel to the tax attorney to start the demand letters. The process is normally that the attorney will send out demand letters with the hopes of getting this all buttoned up. And if he doesn't get any response, then he moves to researching the properties and finding out if there's any liens or any title, he does all the title search and does a lot of research. So because of that, he has asked, and it's very normal for most towns, for the attorney to ask that the select board agree to purchase any properties that don't get any bids. This is to the benefit of the town as well, because we can then turn that property over to somebody that will pay their taxes and their utilities, and it won't continue to stay outstanding. Some of these properties that are on this list have been on this list before, and this is a continual thing. Every 4 or 5 years, their house goes on for tax sale. I know a couple of these water balances have not only the highest usage in our whole water system, but they are not paying $1 for any of that usage. So I think that some action really needs to take place in order for us to clear up some of these water balances as well. So those are the things that Holly and I are asking for out of you guys so that we can get this tax sale started and hopefully get some of these funds brought in. Looks like it's a total delinquent of $92,000 between the 2, so that would definitely help our town out.
Yeah, sure would.
Yeah.
So, what do we know about the town's history in terms of promising to buy? Do you know anything about that? Promising to...
It's been a while since
Yeah, it's
we've had
been a
a
long
tax
time.
sale,
Yeah.
and I do believe that the town has purchased homes before to resell if the people don't come up with the money in the year's time they have. Personally, I think it's a good idea because if you don't and nobody buys the property, then just nothing happens. So I think it's behooves the town to purchase the properties, to get some control over that.
Tiffany,
That's
could
just
you
my-
describe the process of buying those properties? Hearing from Marlene, I'm kind of interested, like what that looks like.
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Yes. Once the attorney starts his process, if it has gone all the way to the tax sale where we're sitting there and we are bidding, that means we have, between us and the attorney, we have taken every reasonable step to try to contact these residents. And once it gets to that stage, it's a very public meeting, and there are, whoever in the public wants to show up from any area can bid on these homes. Once those bids are made, generally there's not a lot of properties left over, especially in today's market, because there is such a high demand for properties right now. But once the bids are made, the attorney takes those funds and he pays out any liabilities, which would be the taxes, the utilities, any fees that he has incurred, and the remaining balance sits in his escrow account, because by law, the state of Vermont requires a 12-month redemption period. So these people whose homes have sold have 12 months to redeem this full balance from the tax attorney. If they do not do that after the 12 months, whoever has purchased the property can then take possession of the property, clean it up, refurbish it, and turnkey it. Or keep it if that's their desire. So with us as a town, if we were to buy it, our liability is less because the majority of these liabilities are town taxes. So therefore, those town taxes would sit on hold until we have actually taken possession of the property, turnkeyed the property, and sold it, and then the taxes would be paid. So on your sheet, you will see that there is an immediate liability line. If we were to purchase any of these properties, I put the total of what we would have to pay out of pocket immediately to purchase that property. So as you see, for every single property on here, we would pay no more than $25,000 plus attorney fees, and that's in the absolute rare circumstance that none of the properties get bid on. But each property shows you what our immediate liability would be if we purchased that property.
Perfect, okay, that makes sense. Thank you, that was very helpful.
I will tell you too that tax sales are very well attended.
Yeah.
And I get calls on a fairly regular basis asking if there's any coming up. I always send them to Holly because she knows, she has the list. I don't know what the plan is, but I don't think the town would be buying many if
If any.
Yeah.
If any, yeah.
Okay, and also it sounds like from everything I'm hearing from you all and from your thoughtful email, Tiffany, as well, that it is in the best interest of the town to do so in the case that there are no bids made. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for Tiffany or thoughts? No. Okay, so at this time, I would call for a motion for the select board to approve $50 per parcel to be expended to tax attorney Kevin O'Toole to send out final demand letters with a current total of $650.
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd now call for a motion for the select board to approve the purchase of any and all properties not bid on a tax sale from the attached list of 13 parcels.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Was there something, I think that was there for everybody to sign?
Which one, this one?
That one, the top one.
Okay.
Oh, the top.
Thank you.
That's right. Sorry.
Yeah, so much paper.
That's for you. I forgot to tell you why.
Okay. Thank you for pointing that out, Marlene. I appreciate it. Okay. Tiffany, anything else before we move on? Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
For all of this.
Thank you.
Okay. So that was item 11 because we bumped something. So now item 12, which is with regards to a sidewalk scoping study. We have a presentation on that from BCRC's Nick Zayak, who's joining us at the table now.
Okay, I didn't pull together a presentation for this because this is a pretty straightforward project and process. right now, the VTrans bike ped study, or bike ped funding is available, and every year there is a pot of money available for figuring out what future projects could be really valuable to our communities. And what I'm here to talk about today is the idea for you guys applying for money to do a scoping study or figure out what to do to address pedestrian and bike access issues that connect between the area of South Shaftsbury, where we are, and North Bennington. The village of North Bennington and the town of Bennington have put a lot of money in and effort into connecting North Bennington with Bennington, and this is the kind of final piece in all of that work of connecting South Shaftsbury and Bennington and in it with safe bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure so that those without cars can get around. And so that these two villages that are so intimately connected can finally have that safe bicycle or pedestrian connection that citizens have come to us talking about and have created a lot of safety issues over the years, including many, many close calls. So what I'm here presenting to you as an opportunity would be the opportunity to apply for about $60,000 or apply for funding for a $60,000 project or so, of which 80% would come from the state with a town match of 20% or about $12,000, or I should say or exactly $12,000 if awarded. So again, this would be a motion to authorize a letter, to authorize an application. That is the action of the night that I would be seeking if you guys are interested in this project. We have done about, I would say 5 to 10 hours of pre-scoping to figure out, is this a good project? And I've been thinking about this on and off for a couple of years, from dating back to when I was the chairman of the Regional Transportation Committee, and now as your area bike ped planner, this seems like a really appealing project with the investments further south. So I've included in the packet this very big area that is a polygon that roughly runs from Church Street to the southern line of Shaftsbury. And it plays on themes that have been in your town plan for many years. I haven't been able to figure out if it's been decades, but it's currently in your town plan to want to connect to Bennington via a safe bicycle pedestrian route, but typically via 7A instead, which is just a dramatically more challenging effort. So that's the idea. The grants are open. I've pulled together what is more or less a complete grant application package. And if you guys are interested, yeah, you can opt in tonight by approving signing of this letter. And then if you are awarded, the project would take place in fiscal 27. So.
And this isn't for the actual project, this is for a study?
Yeah, it's for figuring out where the project should be.
Okay.
Should it be, there are many potential routes. I've counted 9. You could count it as up to 15 different routings that could include boardwalk through the swamp areas. It could include work within the rail right of way. It could be along 67. So it's to figure out where is it viable to seek out further state funding to improve the safety, particularly in that 67 corridor.
Very cool. Thank you for bringing this before us. Does anybody have any initial questions, thoughts, comments? I guess my initial question is with regards to cost. So at what point does the town become responsible for this $12,000?
When you sign the grant agreement at the end, it would be your last time to back out. This is to apply, you are acknowledging that you would be on the hook for that 20%, but it is not a grant agreement. At some point, if the final grant is awarded, you could certainly turn down the grant at that point. But yeah, this is an acknowledgement that you would be liable for that funding. But yes, you will have to sign paperwork later in the process to actually say, yes, we're completely committed to this. This is fundamentally authorizing the grant agreement at this stage, which is a competitive grant program.
What is that grant cycle? I mean, when is it?
It's an annual
Were
cycle.
we to get the grant, when is it that we would then
So
be liable for?
this year, it would take place in fiscal '27. So the grants would be awarded sometime later this year. It would take a couple of months to get the grant agreements in place. For instance, the town of Pownell just got one of these for a sidewalk, or for a crosswalk in Pownell Center, and it took them 3 or 4 months to get the grant agreement through, so that project is just getting started now. So it's actually gonna run fiscal 27 and 28, if V-Trans is running behind.
And that project you're referring to is the scoping for that crosswalk?
Yeah, scoping for that crosswalk, and then that would make them eligible for a construction grant from V-Trans later. These projects are particularly important if there's going to work within the right-of-way of a state highway, because those projects get much more expensive.
So like 67A?
67A, it's gonna be hard to do some of this project without going into the 67A right-of-way, but one of the reasons that we would look to do a scoping study is to see if there's a path that doesn't require all that very expensive work.
And then the grants to actually do the project are probably 80-20 as well.
Yeah, approximately. That's what I'll be with the town of Arlington to award a project at the very other end of this cycle in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to be zooming in from your parking lot for that one. But that's a project that, in their case, because of a number of delays, kicked around for a very, very, very long time. We've certainly seen that that these projects, once the scoping has been done and figuring out where the infrastructure should go or is viable to go, that is a scope that doesn't go away. You know where that sidewalk or path should go. And given that could also be an opportunity to say, hey, if this is outside of the state right away or isn't going to be that expensive, you could bring your DPW people into doing pieces of that. The scoping is a public record. You get a study that says these are the alternatives, these are the potential costs. So, but yes, you'd be eligible for 80-20 funding through the standard bike ped program that is offered annually.
Very cool idea.
Yeah, it's been kicking around for a number of years, but I've seen a lot of, I've had a couple of meetings with citizens from the corridor, and a lot of that has been, hey, we have safety concerns about this corridor. It's the blind corner there that's been made less blind, but it's still a blind corner, is not going away. But we have some new opportunities that are opened by that too, which when I started thinking about this project a couple years ago, that wasn't a possibility too. So situation is changing, really cool corridor, but yeah, I will say there is one bit of timeline issue, which is if you don't do this tonight, we gotta wait another year for this apple. I wish I'd kicked it to an agenda last meeting, but I had a conflict, unfortunately. So
I think there's a question in the audience.
Yeah, I just had a question, I guess of the board. Maybe this is something we've been discussing for a while. Are we salting money away for some of these match grants? Because we could be looking at a project that's going to be, I don't know, 300,000, $500,000, I don't know what we might be talking. I don't know what the mileage would be that we'd be looking at. I know when I applied for grants for the town for the sidewalk, or around the block sidewalk, we had been salting money away so that when that grant opportunity came up, we could prove that, because one of the big pieces, as I remember, unless it's changed, is that you need to prove real community support for it. We went out and got a petition, and it was a little easier because it was around the block, which everybody uses, but that's just something I think for the board to keep in mind is if you go forward with this, that it may only be 12,000, which actually is a lot these days, but we could be looking at something significantly more if you're looking at a $500,000 project. So that's just, we just urge the board to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
To go forward.
I can never say capital planning enough. That is one of my passions, but it's very much if a project like this goes through and you find a really viable corridor, particularly one that's going to take other people's money to be involved in, starting to save for that town match pretty quickly once you have a scope and you're pretty close to committed to the idea of doing a project in the long run. You can never be prepared enough thinking about the future for these improvements if the need is proven and a viable project comes out of the process. But
And we could begin that tucking money away as soon as we decided we wanted to do it based on the scoping study, but we wouldn't have to do it at any particular time. Is that
these projects, once they're alive, they never go away. The project that I will be jetting out of here shortly to go and talk about was the program money was assigned in 2017 in their case, and it has taken a lot of time to get it to final project, but that is a horror story. That is a project that has run much longer than others. But I've also we've been talking about projects in rights of way that were looked at 20 or 30 years ago that someone did a study on, and those records are still sitting there, and the roads are still the same, and now that's turning into real projects that people are using to solve real problems at some point in the future, which we certainly expect the need for a pedestrian connection like this to only grow in the future.
Yeah.
But thinking about that, we know people have been talking about it for what feels like eons. But
What you said there, though, is exactly what some people are afraid of, is once you start the ball rolling on a project like this, it will never go away. And, where are we going to get? I think $500,000 is probably a significant underestimation. You'd be looking at $1 million easy. So
yeah, it could.
we've heard a lot about the tax pressure. The era of ARPA money is over. I think it's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm actually going to have to leave you guys with this and jet to my other meeting, unfortunately. But I do appreciate the time, and yeah, this is the kind of project where it's in our BCRC conceptual maps as a project that may be needed in the future in the very long run, and. So, ultimately a project like that is one that can live in those planning documents until the citizens find a need for them and they come to you. But until then, this grant program will be available every year. I am getting it on your radar this year because it's been eating at me for 3 of them. And if you guys do find a need for this kind of project, this grant round, is available annually. These kind of scoping studies are going to stay pretty similar in scope moving into the future. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
That was interesting. I know that something like that is a great idea if the region were to grow in terms of population. I know it's something that will probably be able to fundraise a lot of money if and when something terrible happens on that road to somebody, because that is often how that stuff kind of goes, unfortunately. It's often we're not out in front of it. I know right now we're in a financial position to not really be spending a single extra dime on anything, in my personal opinion. I don't know, what's everybody thinking?
Exactly what you just said.
Yeah, I'd be willing to wait a year at least.
Yeah, we could hear from Nick in a year, and I do agree that at some point it really makes sense to get a project like this scoped, and at some point maybe there will be some big influx of money, and it will be somebody who says, I love infrastructure so much, and I'm passing away, and in my will, here's all this money for infrastructure because I love it. And that's possible. So that would be like a perfect fit for this. But I think tonight I'm not personally going to call for any action on this one. Yeah.
Also, I think it'll be clearer once we understand what's happening at the Bernstein Display Building site.
That's true.
And in a sense, it's premature to do the scoping study before that becomes clearer.
Settled, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think it's a great idea. If it were free, obviously, the answer would just be yes. Sounds awesome. I would love to ride my bike to go buy a bagel. Who wouldn't? Like, sounds great. And this is also a year for us where we have had, an interesting sort of, we're really figuring out the budget, and we're figuring out the grand list, and we're figuring out the expanded demands upon our town municipal, infrastructure and our incredible town employees, and figuring out what those costs are going to be in these strange winters, and the rising cost of everything as we continue to watch, the world at large play out and just wreak havoc upon us. So in this moment in time, I think that it's good to be a little bit more fiscally conservative. But hopeful that one day I will ride my bicycle to buy a bagel.
It also seems that when discussing Cole Hall, a lot of the community members would like to see a communal space that could be used, that maybe those funds would be better used somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When I think about what we should be fundraising for,
I'm all about putting a bike path in along 67, but given the number of private properties and easements that we might have to look into, I think it's going to be a very time-consuming and costly effort.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's definitely interesting, and one day it will happen. Okay, so that was Nick Ziak. Item 13, I'm so sorry to these candidates for the cemetery committee. It's been a long wait. So item 13 is the presentation of candidates for the cemetery committee, which is Linda O'Brien and Kevin Keys.
Present.
Awesome. Okay, so sort of what we usually do is if each of you could come one at a time to the table and just tell us a little bit about why you're interested in this, a little bit about yourself, and then what the board traditionally does is appoints you to the committee.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Linda O'Brien, and I'd like to be part of the cemetery committee because I'm really into genealogy.
Cool.
And I feel really good when I go to my family's cemeteries and they're well kept, and I feel like they're too far away for me to take care of, so I will take care of the one in my hometown.
Beautiful. Yeah, okay, that's awesome. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts?
No, that's a great reason to be on the board. I'd make a motion to appoint Linda to the board. Linda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Linda. I really appreciate it. We're lucky to have you on board. Yeah, welcome.
Jen's the cemetery superintendent.
Yes. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, I'm Kevin Keys. I've lived in Shaftsbury for 61 of my 71 years on this planet, and I got recommended by another member of the cemetery committee to volunteer or get initiated into the group. So I've been in the paint and hardware business all of my working life. 27 years with Aubuchon Hardware, 18 years with Curtis Lumber. So I know stuff about stuff that might pertain to...
Very relevant, yeah.
So that's my interest in it.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to appoint Kevin Keys to the cemetery committee.
I'll second that.
All in
Does that
favor?
mean you want to help lead headstones?
I can do that. I'm not afraid to work.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Keys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you both of you. We are fortunate to have you guys, you all.
See you Wednesday.
We'll see you Wednesday.
It's 9 o'clock in the morning, not at night, right?
Alrighty, so item 14, which is the adoption of the 2026 Local Emergency Management Plan, and we have here Paul Dansrow to join us.
Evening. Thank you for the opportunity. Local emergency management plan. So every municipality is required by state statute to develop their local emergency management plans. The main purpose of it is just act as a guideline for municipalities in the event of emergencies or natural disasters. The plan is not supposed to be a book of every step from A to Z for this particular instance, but provides all the key resources, contacts, succession of commands, and stuff that the municipality can fall back on. It's required to be updated annually. Some key updates for this year was, of course, the town office location has changed to the previous LEMP, as well as select board members is the main updates. The remainder of the plan is predominantly the same, a couple here or there updates if the contact had changed out. Separate from that, I would just always encourage individuals and families to always be thinking about emergencies ahead of time. The Vermont Emergency Management website has a great web page that's labeled as Preparedness for Individuals and Families. On that page, there's a lot of great information that a family can use to make their own emergency plans for their own homes. Some things to consider as look to potentially, flooding, extreme cold weather, long-term electric outages, but there's great information in there so families can help develop their own things to get ahead of time. And I always want to encourage people to visit those resources. And subject to any questions or discussion from the select board, the other thing I would just request if in favor to adopt the emergency management plan for 2026, and then we get a signature from the adoption. So, subject to questions.
The only thing I saw was on page 19.
Okay.
Paul Eichen responsibility, it says Cole Hall. Shouldn't that be changed to Town Hall?
Yes. I changed most of them.
Perhaps it should
probably
be
just-
both.
Well, yeah.
We still own it. Yeah, so it's,
Yeah, just adding Town Hall.
yeah, I think so.
I went through and changed Cole Hall to the town offices, but there was obviously one that it is.
Slipped. Thank you.
I just wanted to see what my responsibilities were, so I really.
Yeah. What do I do? That's easy to fix before we
Yeah,
start.
Coal Hall is now just your responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
I am kidding.
Queen of Cole Hall.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I would call for a motion to adopt the 2026 local emergency management plan.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
I can swear we all second it.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Yep. Thanks.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Sorry, it takes a really long time for me to print my name. I'm not good quality.
Lack of practice.
No, it's just it's got to be the same every time.
Thank you.
Which is normal. Okay, so item 15, which is an interim report on EMS restructuring from Paula Eichen, our town administrator, with regards to regionalization.
Yep, just a brief update. I attended a meeting at the Bennington Rescue Squad headquarters about regionalization. I don't know why I have trouble saying that. The rescue squads are nationally, not just in Vermont, in trouble financially. And since COVID and funding cuts, et cetera, their budgets are dwindling. So as far as the south side of Shaftsbury, Bennington Rescue Squad usually covers us. They have made a task force, which I might have accidentally gotten onto by default of going to the meeting, which is fine. A task force to see the feasibility of joining those two, the Pownell Rescue Squad and the Bennington Rescue Squad, to pool resources and make that one entity. So I'll probably just keep showing up to see what they figure out.
And did you learn anything in the course of that about how that combining of their two departments would affect South Shaftesbury? And B, what about North Shaftsbury, which is mostly covered by
That would be Arlington. They didn't really say much about it, and I was the rep from Shaftsbury. Everyone else is from Pownell and Bennington. There were select board members and the two heads of the EMSs. So we're definitely, we have a horse in the race as far as we are covered by them, and it would definitely have some kind of an effect because the resources are still stretched because now they're stretching south and the coverage. So again, they made lots of points about it's not just in Vermont. These resources are being stretched nationally. And many of these rescue squads are being proactive in having these discussions before they're told to do this by the state, which that's my understanding.
Interesting. Yeah, I read an article about it in the Banner with a lot of interviews and information about the panels funding and how much they had 5 years ago, how much they have today, what they anticipate facing in the next year. But yeah, definitely makes sense to keep appraised on what this would mean for service for our residents and our community members, and if wait times would be longer, what that kind of thing would mean, or how they plan to. I know it's probably just the very beginning, so they're thinking about all that.
Yeah, I reminded them that it's a committee when it's not an emergency and it's a task force when it is. So they specifically said task force, and I said, oh, that's why. That's why.
Definitely, it's a matter
They
of
need to do something, because Pownell's budget was
Yeah, it's like they're at like 200,000 now instead of $1 million.
And they had $1 million before COVID. It's that bad.
Yeah.
They have the same, ending, but their Bennington's Horizon, Bennington Rescue Squad's Horizon is farther out, but it's the same.
Struggling with the same issues.
Same issues.
And then Arlington as well. So if they eventually merge with Manchester, Sunderland, whatever, then we really are sort of in between two
larger
regional places, but we're farthest from the center of either one.
Oh, right. They did mention the middle point. There's some middle point in Shaftsbury where they all know who Arlington gets and who Bennington gets.
So maybe we should start talking to Arlington.
And see what's happening there as well. What their forecast is like for the coming years. Yeah. Matter of great importance. So thank you for going and for keeping us updated and keep letting us know. Okay. Or maybe it'll be good. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions, comments?
I can offer to reach out to the head of the Arlington Rescue Squad to just talk about it.
Okay, that'd be great, Yeah, we're all gonna have to come together. Okay, item 16 is a report on a meeting with Congresswoman Balance team with regards to congressional appropriations. I'll do like a little summary and then Naomi can jump in with any thoughts. So time is moving very strangely for me, so I actually don't know when last month?
Yes.
Last month.
It was about 3 weeks ago, I think.
Oh my gosh, feels like forever. So last month, Naomi, myself, and Carlin Mickle, our zoning administrator, attended a Zoom meeting, which was set up by Shira Sternberg with Becca Balance team, and which was led by the state director for Congresswoman Balance team. Her name is Jessica Nordhaus. And so it was kind of a preliminary meeting about congressional directed spending and community project funding. So just in summation of sort of like big picture, is that the House Appropriations Committee, some years not others, accepts requests from members of Congress for community project funding for various fiscal years. The funding supports specific worthwhile projects across the country. Each member of Congress may submit projects proposed by government entities, that's us, and nonprofits, with some exceptions, to the Appropriations Committee to be considered for funding. So we had this meeting to sort of talk about what sort of projects we might be able to submit for and learn a little bit about, from Jessica Nordhaus, Congresswoman Balance priorities, what kind of projects we could submit that might be of interest and make it their way across her desk. Last year, for fiscal year 26, Congresswoman Balance secured funding for all 15 of the projects that she submitted for consideration, which is the maximum number allowed under House rules. This is very much the beginning of something, and there are just a few quick notes about it, which is that we would need in order to kind of participate in this application cycle, which we're at the very preliminary stage of even talking about doing so, which is why we're here today, would be letters of support from the community, whether that be interested parties. Well, let me back up. So one of the main priorities for Congresswoman Ballant is housing and infrastructure that supports housing, which in the town of Shaftsbury would be wastewater. and with regards probably to the property that the town of Shaftsbury holds that sits behind Cole Hall, and the septic plan, sewer feasibility plan that was put together. So in order to sort of move into that space, we would get letters of support, whether it would be from Habitat for Humanity, who would maybe be interested in doing that project, or from Representative Durfee. We would put together information about, the proposed project, explain why it would be a good use of taxpayers' dollars since it's a big ask, and then explain how we would complete the project. So this is a big thing to do, perhaps, but it's an option. It was really thoughtful of Shira to put together that meeting for us, just so we can even begin to talk about possibilities like that for this town. There's a list that I'm happy to share with you all that I should have shared before this meeting of what kind of projects were selected last year, and it has the amount of funding that they applied for as opposed to what they received, which I think is important to note. And one thing that is relevant kind of to what we were talking about earlier, which is that you do have to obligate the funds within a year. So it's a significant undertaking to make sure that you're in a place to submit an application where you know what the project is and you understand your project cost and you're able to, meet us as a municipality responsibility for how much needs to be paid out. And one other note is that we were offered some help by a member of the town, Naomi Byman, to help with the grant application process pro bono, just because she wants to get involved. So this is just an initial meeting. Thoughts?
She's offered to do writing, not research.
I said grant writing. Yeah.
Preparation. And I think the only thing I have to add is that Jessica, the state director that we met with, said very clearly several times that housing is balance real thing, and it's getting to be more and more so every year, and that all over Vermont wastewater systems are the main block to housing. So she was very encouraging about our being able to get this, and she thought this is exactly the kind of thing NECA wants to put forward.
So it's just the beginning of that conversation. Obviously, there's no action to take tonight. This is basically just an update on a meeting. I don't know really.
Although, I think we want the sense of the meeting, so to speak, about the idea, because we would need to start moving forward on it in July.
On the application process.
On the application. That office provides people to work with us and, take us through all the various steps.
And it's like 40 pages long, it's a lengthy endeavor. It's not
We start in July and end in October.
Yeah.
Do we have any idea what the project would cost if we were to do it? Have
About
we gotten
$1 million
that far?
was what we were told.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when people are, when you saw the report of what was given out versus what people asked for, was it about what they asked for, or was
I think it's usually fairly similar unless you really shoot for the moon.
Okay.
And they would help us with that. And before we made even a decision to submit on this, we would get a couple of probably updated figures from Dufresne on, 3 different sizes, now maybe because of the fact, this is my personal opinion, because of the fact that there is not a large desire for community septic at this time, and the fact that we do own those septic systems over at the elementary school that are not fully in use and all of these other sort of things, it's possible that the sizing of the septic tank that we had spec'd out is too big. This is just my personal opinion, for the kind of project that we're talking about when we're talking about putting in a septic that could serve a property right there that would be developed by somebody like Habitat for Humanity or something like that, and maybe service the general store. As opposed to saying, all of these people's houses are failing on Cleveland, and actually it's so far away, that kind of thing, where you're like, this isn't really, which is what the money was set aside for the sewer feasibility committee, to get into all that and spend all that time putting that information together. And it sort of reminded me when Nick was talking about the scoping study, what a similar thing it is that now that we have some vague idea of what that might cost and where it might go and how it would look, then we can start to look at various options and that's what scoping studies are for, and that's kind of cool, and that we can't afford this year. But, I don't know, so, yeah, what is everybody thinking? Oh, Karen.
So essentially, what you would potentially envision as a project to engage Becca's assistance with, or, her firepower up there, would be a septic system like on the property that we bought as a town, so that affordable housing could somehow be placed in that area, and the country store would then have a viable way to maybe really expand into a really nice country store.
That's the whole,
Not able to do for a very long time.
And this sort of follows up on a number of meetings we had with, I'm forgetting the name of that. Cornerstone Housing, the new sort of expanded version of Shires, right? And they were really very excited, I would say, right, about developing housing on the lot north of Cole Hall. And they had all kinds of ideas about pairing it with grants to redevelop housing in the Cleveland Avenue area. But they need a septic system to be provided.
And
so it's in a sense that makes us shovel ready, because they are there. They said they could move forward starting in 18 months. So they're not in a rush, but they mentioned it in the news articles and stuff. I mean, it's on their list of priorities. So,
yeah, so that was sort of thinking, and making it so that land is sellable and viable to build housing upon, whether it be just a few units or whatever it would kind of look like, which would be sort of more to the desire of whoever is looking at doing that project. And Cornerstone, they were really all good to go, and then they said, oh, you don't have any wastewater and you don't have any water service. And, the way that we fund, which I don't remember in particular because it's on an annual basis and it's with these banks out of Boston and all this. Anyway, the way that they fund, those people do not want to do the septic part. So we were like, well, we can't afford to do that. So as they said, they were like, we can definitely fund this project. We can get this built. We even got to the point where they're sending specs of like what it might look like or how many units. When we said we want to keep it low profile, we'd like it to look a lot like sort of colonial or like farmhouse. So we were even in those conversations before they said, we've thought about it and we really don't think that we can move forward until we figure out the issue of wastewater.
And they were also even talking about wrapping Cole Hall into their grant applications and as a community center.
Yeah, they were getting very
preservation
creative.
funds wrapped into the.
And keeping us as like keeping the town as a named owner on Cole Hall as a property, but then they had all sorts of exciting ideas, and we were like, well, we don't have wastewater. And it was, it just is what it is. And so it seems like something that maybe we should try to do. And if it doesn't work out, and also I believe these community project funding, these secured fundings, they don't happen every year. Like, it's not guaranteed. And when we say obligate the funds within a year, it doesn't mean build it. And so there's some flexibility, but this is just sort of, to take the temperature of the idea of trying to do this, which is an undertaking, but a good one.
I think it's a positive way. That's one of the reasons the study was good, is that we would have that off the shelf when an opportunity like this came along. So plan is working.
So, okay. Then we'll start talking about it more, I guess. Cool. Okay, so that's that one. Cool. Next is item 17, which is discussion of the possibility of a clinic space in this town office building. We'll all talk about this a little bit. I'll just start with a little spiel and then we'll talk about it. So discussing the free medical clinic, I sent y'all an email about this. I know there's been a lot of talk about this in the community for a couple of years. I sent out the ARPA and EDC surveys conducted with the goal of guiding the town's spending of ARPA funds. and as well as the PowerPoint presentation that was delivered directly in advance of the vote, which was, shall the town of Shaftsbury expend $375,000 on the purchase of the former Shaftsbury Medical Associates building at 677 Route 7A, Shaftsbury, an additional $178,486.08 on the renovation and repair needed to make the building appropriate for municipal offices. So as a series of these conversations, there were different desires listed in those ARPA and EDC surveys, which are available on the town website for anybody who is listening and interested. And the PowerPoint can be made available as well that was delivered in advance of the meeting because it's all public record. We talked a lot about the idea of free eye clinics, foot clinics, mental health services to be offered to uninsured and underinsured community members at no cost to them and no cost to our taxpayers. That's kind of all I have. Now we can talk about it.
And so, in a process that I have also written to the select board about in the last couple of weeks informationally, I have worked with Dr. David King and Dr. Avery Wood to talk about the possibility of making that clinic, and we have, it sounds like it can work, making that clinic a offshoot, just basically an offshoot of the Bennington Free Clinic, which is run by GBIX, and GBIX has a new grant in relation to that free clinic to offer extended community services, so services out in the community, and they have actually been struggling with how to make those happen. So they've been running pop-up vaccination clinics, pop-up wound care clinics, but they're always seeking places to do it. And what they would like to do is to extend under their insurance, under their medical supervision, under their coordination, services of a variety of kinds on a regular basis for free to underinsured and uninsured people in Shaftsbury through the medical office that's in the back, the medical exam room in the back of this building that has its own entrance and exit door. And the services that they are talking about are pop-up specialty clinics like vaccinations and wound care, regularly occurring clinics for general medicine, either by appointment or by drop-in. That would need to be decided. Home-based general medical care for the homebound. Dr. King is particularly interested in being able to come back and renew the care he used to provide for his homebound patients who haven't been seen medically since he closed his practice. He says there's a large community like that in this town. Psychiatric consultation services, physical therapy consultation services, and setting it up as a structure that can be ongoingly flexible in relation to emerging needs. And what the emerging needs that they were talking about with me when I met with Dr. Wood, Dr. King, Natalie Basile, who's the executive director of GBIX, and the two nurses who work at the free clinic in Bennington. And they are just very motivated right now about trying to figure out ways to step into the emerging breach for all the people who are losing their Medicaid. And also for people who are becoming uninsured or underinsured because employers are changing their amount that they pay for insurance. And a lot of people are, sort of snowballingly, I think we all know this, people are losing their medical insurance. And the Bennington Free Clinic has ample funding and ample physician and nurse volunteers to staff other sites. So they've got it all sort of, they're ready to go, in a sense. Natalie Basile wants the kind of formal go-ahead to begin developing more specific plans for it, and Avery Wood wants the go-ahead to be able to start formally recruiting physicians. She's informally got a network of people she's recruited, she says, or is pretty sure she can recruit. They're interested in it. So what we need is to be able to go back to Natalie Wood and say, yeah.
Avery Wood, Natalie.
I'm sorry, Natalie.
I don't know.
Natalie Wood. I did that, yes.
Avery Wood and Natalie.
Basile, yes.
Would they work out some of the specifics or work with us on some of the specifics regarding like times and access and that kind of stuff? And would that be something they work with the select board on directly, or how would that work?
They could work with the select board directly, or they could work with a representative from the select board. They would prefer, I guess, not to have to
come to the whole board.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see a lot of problems with that room back there. Yes, it has its own entrance and exit, but it goes directly into the exam room. There's no waiting room. And you have full access to this building. In order to make this work, I believe, you'd have to have something like the office next door. If that was available, that would be the perfect place to set something like this up, because it's totally separate from this office space. And if people are coming in and out of the back door, there's no lighting back there. There's really no good path. It's a very uneven path that you have to walk. And if this is being set up at night, there's so many issues, so many issues.
I think the lighting issue is something we would have to talk about with them. Obviously, they'd have to provide that. But what Paula and Zoe and I have talked about, and I was here with Avery Wood, and she was sort of agreeing about it and putting her 2 cents in, is that since this will be only at times when the municipal offices are not open, right? People could use the break room as a waiting room. And Paula has said that people can use a small desk, which we have procured, in her office, in the front of her office, as a nursing station, sort of intake. So people can come in, we would have to work out whether they would come in the direct back door or directly through the exam room, but then they would go into the waiting room, which would be a couple of seats in the break room, which is adjacent to the nursing station desk that would be in Paula's office, and also adjacent to the exam room in the back. And this would in no way impinge on any work in this space, which is open to the public for public meetings in any way. Like the Republican Party meets here, the Democratic Party meets here. The offices are individually locked. I'm not really sure what people would be.
We also have meetings here many nights of the week.
Right, that would have to be figured into their schedule.
Well, yeah, this was also voted on by the people of the town as a municipal office space. Do we go back to the...
As a municipal office space after Zoe's presentation,
which was really the CCDC's presentation.
Which was based on the CCDC's work, and you were on that committee.
I was.
So when people were taking that vote, although it wasn't in the words of the vote, the presentation about how this building was going to be used was all about how until we can have a community center in Cole Hall or someplace else, we would be able to buy this building that would do both things at once.
Here.
I'm really confused, to be honest. I thought one of the things that was described, and we were at a couple of meetings when it was presented, that how nice it would be if we had mothers who wanted to get together and with their toddlers and have a mother's kind of hour, or mother and fathers with their kids.
We're working on that
hour.
too, yes.
What I'm hearing sounds like a medical office space in a municipal, small town municipal building, and it's really concerning me. So are you is the town, are you all going to be, going through a checklist of patients, which should be private, frankly, to ensure that they are all Shaftsbury residents?
That would all be the province of Dr. King.
No, I understand that, and I guess that even confuses me more, because, the building was sold to the town, or this half of the building was sold to the town by Dr. King for municipal space. And we were told as residents that we were really squeezed at the seams in Cole Hall, that it was not a safe place for our employees, that we really needed more space to grow. And I haven't walked the space, frankly. But first I was hearing you talk about one room that was, I guess, used to be an examining room. I have no idea what the size of it is. But then it's expanding to, Paula said the desk could be used where, I don't know where that is, but I guess it's not even an examining room. And then we could put 2 chairs in our municipal office waiting room.
No, in the staff break room.
Or the staff break room. Okay.
I think it would help actually if you took a walk through.
And so our staff, I would imagine in their break room, has private things that they leave in the break room. Or who is monitoring all of that? I just find that as a town resident, it sounds very much like a medical facility to me. And I don't know of any other town office spaces in a rural town, and this was a real stretch for us to do this as a town, that has medical facilities and pop-ins and for, all kinds of services, it sounds like.
Well, actually,
And we're not controlling any of that. What you're saying is that Dr. King would be controlling all of that within a building that we townspeople own. Is that?
Well, actually,
do I have that right?
Avery would be the on-site medical director. The insurance and the medical licensing and oversight and all of that would be coming through GBICS, and Dr. King is the medical director of that overall clinic.
And who would be handling all of the programming and the timing and the calendar and, we have an emergency here when you're talking about emerging situations. Are we looking at a town employee that's having to spend time organizing?
No, there would
Again, it's admirable. And GBICS, we support GBICS. My husband volunteers there. But I have some real concerns in terms of the scope of what you're looking at and the space that is available, which means space that I guess we are not using as a town.
Karen, let me just explain that. We're talking about dedicating one room.
But the break room for a waiting room.
The break room is not locked anyway. But the break room is just a break room. And nobody would be here except the clinic when it is happening.
But that has to be organized. And what if there are?
Can I finish to answer your other questions?
Okay.
GBICS has requested that there be a liaison assigned from the select board, either a member of the select board or a volunteer appointed by the select board. Like we have plenty of volunteers, right? the person who volunteers to be this liaison to BCRC. The energy coordinator, all those kinds of things. Somebody like that who would deal with that interfacing. And another thing that was talked about a lot was these kinds of services or pop-up groups, like parent groups, kids reading groups, and those things are also going to need to be coordinated in the long run. So this building is going to need somebody who coordinates that stuff with whoever is organizing it. So if Carlin Mickle is working with Shira Sternberg to do a young parents group with their kids, they're going to have to coordinate calendars, scheduling, etc. with the town, and there's going to need to be somebody to do that. And that person is the same person who would do this.
So was this something that came out of the survey? Did we have a lot of folks? What were the numbers on the survey?
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm happy to, it's on the website, and I'm also happy to forward you, well, you can just look on the website, but that's a good question. There were two, so I guess the way I see this too, or the way I see the whole thing, is that the way that the funding was first approached was with regards to building a community center. And then in the process of, okay, how is the town, I at this point was just on the CCDC, I wasn't on the select board, I wasn't involved, like I just was going every single week, every Thursday for an hour with Marlene and Marie and Joan and Paula and Sarah and talking about how we could build a community center. That's like what we talked about for months.
With the ARPA money?
Yes.
Using ARPA money?
Correct.
Right.
So we talked about this for months. We scoped out all of these different structures, all these different possibilities.
And
during that
incidentally,
process,
a medical office was always a piece of those designs.
and during that process, Cole Hall began, and also I was like not super aware of everything going on there because like why would I be? And in the time that I was in those CCDC meetings, concurrently I learned that there were electrical fires, that employees were unable to breathe in their office spaces, and that there were all these issues going on. And so then we started talking about, and we found out that it would be $1.5 million to build a community center that would meet the needs of the town and have things like a space for voting and a space for pop-up clinics and a space for seniors to meet in the morning and talk about death and dying over Danishes, these sort of things. We realized that we couldn't afford that structure. So then the conversation started shifting to, okay, what can we as a town do, right? Like what is the amount of money that we have and what can we do with it that can meet all of these various needs, which yes, there was an ARPA, I wasn't part of those either, but they are on the town website. There was an ARPA survey sent out and there was an EDC survey sent out, an Economic Development Committee survey sent out saying, hey, what would you like to see this money spent on, right? We heard town green, we heard social services, we heard medical services, we heard community spaces for seniors, we heard spaces for children, we being the town, not like me. And so, with the CCDC, we just talked about all these things, and then concurrently, it became apparent that our employees of our town couldn't work in their office space. So we were like, okay, we need to figure out how to have a community space like we've promised people we would do with this money for like 3 years. And also have a space for these wonderful employees of the town to work. This building seemed like it would be able to meet a lot of needs. And some of them are still ongoing. Like this bookcase is over there because it's going to be full of children's books. Like Carlin and Shira are in talks about that. So all of this is still very early preliminary, just to answer your question. So the answer is, instead of building a community center, we bought a building that we hoped, Shaftsbury hoped, and as a part of that presentation, it was delivered that it would be a Swiss Army knife of a building, and that it would be able to serve all of these purposes until the time at which, ideally, Cole Hall, which obviously this would take a very long time, and I understand that, could be restored to a level at which it could be used by community members, that it would be accessible, and at that time, some of those things could shift over there. So that is the answer to why we're having a conversation about using a municipal office for multiple purposes. All of your questions are valid, and I'm not trying to neglect any of them. I'm just letting you know how we came to a space where we would talk about using a municipal office in a variety of ways, and why we ended up doing that, which I think is pretty important to the narrative.
Is there any reason, is Cole Hall, I mean, you're talking about one small room. Is there no space in Coleman that you could do this pop-up medical?
At this time,
situation if they put money into it?
They would have to put in a significant amount of money in order to create like sort of, so the reason that that space is bespoke for, or like a good fit for this rather, is that it is an existing exam clinic. You know, it's a clinician's room. It has a sink in it. It has the counters in it. It has the cabinetry in it, and it has an exterior door. So that sort of is something that in order to retrofit into Cole Hall would be very expensive, yeah. So that is a good question, and yes, it could be done, but I think at this point, a better use of money for Cole Hall would be to work on the mold remediation downstairs, so that if we ever were to spend the money as a town to use that structure again, it was a place where people could breathe. And bring the electrical up to code so that it doesn't like spark and catch on fire. So I guess it's a, you know, one of those really small town, I hear all sides of this, I really do. And I think that what everyone is trying to do in this town all the time and in small towns all across this country is to do so much with so little. And I know that we're all aware at this table about, you know, how difficult it is in America right now, and especially in rural communities, and especially in underserved communities. And so I think that's why, even though this is not a perfect fit, this is not, you know, ideal, this is why it seemed at least worth trying to engage with GBICS and give them the opportunity to try to make something that works. And if they were to present things to us that didn't make any sense, and that, you know, if they weren't able to answer all those questions, right? If they weren't able to come up with a cohesive plan that worked for the members of the town and worked for the members of the town that need these services, that really are going years without eye clinics, years without foot clinics. It is happening all around us, right? There's a reason that Dr. King wants to go into people's homes, that he misses being able to do so, and he's not able to do so because he doesn't have a satellite office in this town. So if there are not appropriate answers to those questions, maybe that would be a time at which we didn't move forward. This is not like a promise to do anything except for engage with the process of possibility. Right. And I think at this time in America, not engaging with the process of possibility is frankly disenchanting and not in keeping with my version of what this country should be.
But so you're saying this is surplus space that we have right now? It's space that we do not need?
We're storing things in there right now. We are lacking in storage space in this building.
The basement
cannot store some of the things. It's
That's a great question
down there. I have a lot of envelopes. I have a lot of envelopes that I just got another batch from the state for upcoming elections. You cannot put them in a basement that's wet because they'll seal themselves. They won't be any good.
Where are they stored in Cole Hall?
In the little back room off my office. So, and some of them were ruined even in there, but at least in there we had dehumidifiers. And when we were planning a community center, yes, I wanted to have a place to vote in the community center. I was hoping to have a place to vote here. I now know we can't because this isn't, we didn't build it. We don't have room. We don't have room, so I'm giving up that dream. When we were talking about building a community center specifically for our needs, there was always a separate location within that could be locked off for something like a pop-up medical clinic, something like, it was always separated from the office space.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Always.
That's a good question about surplus storage. I think that is a really valid question, obviously. It's interesting to think about as well, because we did move from, I don't know how many square feet, but into 4,400. And I do think that there's a lot of underutilized space within this building. I mean, these are very, it's an interesting question. It's an interesting question of what deserves square footage, right? You're right.
I don't know the building. I'm just sort of looking down the long hall. Is it somewhere down in there?
It's in the back now.
It's the first right. It's the first right past the bathroom. You go down that hall.
I can take you down there after.
Yeah, and space is always at a premium, so that's a great question.
Yeah. I don't remember the huge cry for medical stuff. And of course, believe me, we are in a sad state of affairs in this country, health-wise, medically. in terms of services for people. There is no question about it. I just want to be sure that, and there were a lot of dreams with that ARPA money.
Sure were.
We had $1 million. Oh my God, what we could do with $1 million. And then it got down to, are we going to be able to afford to move into this building here? You know, we're going to be deficit spending for that. So I think, you know, people may have had big dreams, and then reality hits home. You know, we all know, we certainly know, because we just built the home, how much it costs to build. And you know, my hats are off to all of you to try to keep it within the budget that was a whole lot more limited than what we had anticipated it being, I think. So I just want to be sure that we're not taking on too much in a, you know, in a wonderfully generous way, but in some way constraining our ability to function for the normal municipal functionings that we need to do, and the staff here being able to, you know, meet the needs of residents like us.
Absolutely.
So.
And actually, I have the ARPA survey results because it was in that packet you sent. Center of Commerce was number 1. Community meeting spaces was number 2. Infrastructure was number 3. And local social services was at the bottom, number 4.
Yeah.
And then people want a town green. They wanted a town green. They wanted a gazebo. They wanted a stage. They wanted to have a gathering place. That was the big thing that we kept hearing, gathering place, gathering place. That's what people really wanted to see happen.
And after a long and winding road, we ended up with a medical facility, you know, and there's just an obvious synergy here. I mean, I think, like Zoe said, healthcare is harder and harder to access in this country. Everyone knows that. Even with insurance, it's hard to access.
Yeah, it's horrible. I just paid like $3,000 because I went to the ER. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I have insurance.
Yeah, no, and it's so, you know, I think if we were going to, and yeah, all these things have been talked about, infrastructure, gazebos, amphitheaters, you know, and none of that was realistic, and that was obvious, I think, at the moment those things were mentioned often. But we have this now. I think we would have to be a lot more imaginative if we wanted to tell the town, you know, we'd rather store envelopes here than provide a pop-up clinic, you know. And I also take, there's a little bit of an undercurrent here that underinsured or uninsured people are a dangerous demographic.
I'm not. I was not at all.
Nobody.
I didn't say you said that. It's been an undercurrent to the conversation, and I think it's.
That's certainly not.
Well, the fear, I agree, the fear about having citizens of the town walking around the building when this is the citizens' building, and as you said, regular people like us need these services, and yes, regular people need medical services and are Shaftsbury citizens.
And I think if we have ample space to do it, we should do it. That's my only concern.
Well, it was at the bottom of the list and all of those things, and that is a tiny little one room. So, you know, it's a lot, and all those other things are in fact also in the works. It's just that they're not as complicated.
I think it's important, Naomi, again, I am making reference to your words. When you were talking, it was expanding more and more and more, and I'm thinking, well, there's one little room with one entrance, and how are they going to organize that? But then it became they could use the waiting room and have 2 chairs there, and something about Paula having a desk out here somewhere, and
In my office, I'm more than happy
I don't know where
to
your
offer the
office is,
space.
but that's-
More than
It's
happy.
right back there, Carol.
Right that door, right there.
that's your office in there?
Yes, plenty of
So they would
space.
have access in there, which means that this is all open then. Is that right? This is all open.
This is all open.
Well, no, I thought you were talking about the entrance back there has a separate entrance and a door that closes.
This office also has a door that goes into the break room, which goes to the back hallway, which directs right into that room.
So this would not be open.
No, we wouldn't
there's
need it to
nobody
be
close it
open.
off.
We wouldn't
There's
need
no-
it to be open.
Well, but you're saying...
There's no doors to close it off,
What
so.
would be closed off is the other offices, which all have locks on their doors.
So they would come through here to go into the...
They would come through the back door probably, and it would probably be that, once again, these are logistics that would be sorted out by somebody else, but I'm just gonna speculate on whatever. Back door has a key, clinician has the key, clinician lets them in, one person at a time. Waiting room would be in the break room only so that they're able to be there. The clinic is in the back corner. You're happy to, welcome to take a look at it. It's the only room that didn't get like a big refurbish as part of this process. It's largely left the same as it was at the time that Dr. King had his practice here. And they would exit out that door. So they wouldn't be, these people, these members of our community wouldn't be, you know, first of all, they wouldn't be, I don't know how they administer the program, but I'm going to assume that they would be registered with GBICS, that they would know their names and who they are and their date of birth and these sort of things, that they would probably know them, just like, you know, after even just a few years, everybody knows you in the grocery store, whether you want them to or not. And they would walk them in. It's not as though there would be, just in my assumption of how this would work, it's not as though there would be a ton of loose people running around in this building.
There would always be 2 staff members.
And there would always be 2 staff members.
The physician or other provider and
for their own safety, just like in medical settings.
And the nurse would be doing intakes, and picking people up at the door, walking them in, taking their blood pressure.
So it would not be like an unsupervised, yeah.
It would be you all or Paula who would be coming up with a, you know, this is the no time zone for any clinic hours?
The liaison from the select board or volunteer, whoever that turned out to be, which sounds like it's probably going to be an AMI, would work directly, for the time being, would work directly with GBICS to do that. It would not be a town employee, it would not be the group of us. That would be, and you know, and I think that probably the likelihood, in my mind, what Avery Wood said, Friday evenings, because we have a lot of Wednesdays, we have a Monday, we have a lot of Mondays, we have a lot of Thursdays. And so a Friday 6 to 7, a Friday 6 to 8, we do, you know, 1 in, 1 out. That's the sort of thing that was described. Once again, none of this is
set in stone
happening right now. This is just a conversation in which we could engage in more conversations to see how this would or could happen. So that's sort of just where we are today.
So those would be nights that the community really couldn't plan any events. Say if you had a Friday night that was for clinic hours, then you couldn't really have a community kind of event in this space.
No, you
Why
could,
not?
because it's a totally, I think part of the problem here is just that you haven't gotten to go back there.
It has a
Those
separate-
3 rooms
yeah.
we're talking about all have doors between them. So it's just one, you know, yes, people could come out here if they wanted, but there could be anything going on here. And the medical clinic folks wouldn't have to.
Yeah, if it's once a month on a Friday and they're in that back room and they're using that back entrance, I still don't see why on that Friday evening it would preclude the ability for members of this community to use this space and
So
still
you're
meet
talking
HIPAA
like
requirements.
once a month?
I think
That's what
something.
you're talking about?
Once or
It sounded
twice.
like a lot.
Once or twice. Well, I think that the way that it works right now, or the way that they would, I imagine it working, right? Because these are also volunteers, would be sort of, you know, that things are scheduled in advance, that you have 4 or 5 people who are coming back to back. And I don't really know, once again, this is like a question for somebody who could answer these questions, who would like to come and answer these questions. But in order for them to be allowed to come and answer these questions, we have to like let them do that. So this is the first conversation in terms of that. But yes, it would not be, oh, on Tuesday, Zoe's coming because she thinks her eyes are going. And on Thursday, Naomi like has a cut on her hand from mowing the lawn. It wouldn't just be like back to back, because these doctors are real people. So they're, you know, they're very busy. They're donating their very limited time. And so it certainly isn't going to be like, hey, we're on our way. You know, it would be very scheduled. I'm not sure, you know, I am not a doctor. I have my own things I must do in life. But I am sure that they are very well managed. And I'm sure that they would be willing to describe that structure, discuss it with you, and discuss it with the members of the community at large. And this would be the first conversation of many. This is not a conversation in which something happens tomorrow, if that
Right,
makes
and
sense.
that's what I was just going to ask. I'm assuming that the board is going to have some kind of
Like listening sessions,
meeting
yeah.
and bringing in these doctors
Yes,
that would
yeah.
potentially be involved in this, and they could
Absolutely.
explain to the community Because again, I apologize, but it just sounded, Naomi, you were mentioning, dentist.
Yeah, it sounded like
eye
creep.
doctor,
Yeah,
and
scope creep.
mental health, and so I'm thinking, well, David King doesn't do all of that, so we're not talking about one doctor. We're talking about multiple professions, and are they, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, do they each have a night a week, or how is this working? But if you're saying that basically the facility is open, once a month or twice a month even, for, then the community knows that. And the questions can be answered. If you're bringing the doctors in and they're
Yeah, that was the goal, was to have this conversation here, and then have the next conversation with them present, the administrator present, the doctors present. So this conversation was about facilitating that next
And
conversation.
that was explained in the emails that Zoe and I.
'Cause it was just
sent
for
out
us
this
to start-
process to the select board.
Just for us to start talking about this.
That this was, that at the next one, hopefully they would be coming.
Got it.
Actually, we were told they were coming tonight and then they couldn't come.
No,
So she had been
I just said I was
mistaken.
wrong.
Oh,
I was just
well,
wrong.
so, then, yeah, I actually at first thought they would be here tonight, but
Well,
then
my
I got
initial
that
email said
email.
they are eager to come talk to people about it.
No, yeah, I was just wrong. I said that they were
But
coming, and they weren't.
they're not eager to
I
come until
misunderstood.
they know that people are in support of it. So we need some sort of formal decision to invite them to come and talk about it. Natalie, Avery, and David.
And that could be an opportunity for members of the community to talk about it. This is all still just talking. So, and trying to figure out how to make a community space out of what is also a municipal office while trying to meet everybody's needs at once, which is impossible in life. And yeah, so we'll see, but this is what this is a conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate all that.
Well, what do you all think about the possibility of having them come and speak to us and learning more about this?
I think I would like to get a better understanding of how they're viewing using the area or the space.
Totally, yeah. me
And
too.
also, not having seen this portion of the building multiple times, but not knowing how the back portion is configured, how it could work, allowing access from the back of the building, what the conditions are, whether there's a walkway, whether there's steps, lighting. My children go to a doctor in North Bennington that they arrive, they're the only ones there, they go inside, they get seen, they come out, and that's the entire.
Avery's old practice.
So,
Yes.
right next to the old towers. Megan Gunn?
Oh,
So, but I do see I definitely see the benefit. I think this conversation has led to many more questions as to how they're envisioning using the space.
Totally. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'd say let's have them come in and tell us about it then. Do we need a formal action for that, or are we just issuing a invite?
Do you think that they feel that they need formal action?
no. I mean, they want to know that they are being taken seriously enough for them to put in their time to try to answer as many of those questions ahead of time before they come, so they can think about them and give significant answers. And, I don't think they want to do that without some sense that there's a serious intent to make it work, but that's not an obligation to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's no way to move forward without everybody sort of saying in good faith, well, this is something we'd like to have work if we could make it work.
I think that sounds reasonable, if we can make it work. I mean, and it doesn't sound to me like you have, frankly, all of the details. Knowing at least two of those individuals, I'm sure they would understand that the board has questions, because you should have questions.
Oh, yeah, they're
Yeah, well, this
looking
is
forward to coming
this is
to
the
talk.
first conversation of many,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have, as I said before, I have very few answers. I have questions, I have hopes. That's maybe how I feel about my whole life. So very few answers, questions, and hopes.
We all try to help, right?
Yeah. One day I'll have more answers. Every 10 years, a few more. Okay, well then maybe Naomi, could you reach out to them and ask for them to come and speak to the board? And we'll also post on social media about it and get the word out so that other people can come and talk, and also so that, town employees can come and voice their concerns, and they can, maybe they should come in advance with you, and you guys can take a look at the little setup up there again if you want, or something like that, just to start thinking about the space itself and a door setup. And if there's, you don't have, I don't. Questions, hopes? A few answers. I had a few answers.
You do?
Okay. Other business.
I have another business. I'll try to make it quick. Going into the weekend, I got email from Sheriff Gully with the new contract.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it comes 2 months after town meeting where the budget is set.
Oh, no.
And it's going to go up. Of course it's going to go up. You may or may not know we have a contract with them long-standing for 24 hours, which, boy, we've needed a little bit more in the past few months for various reasons. And they're going up to $88 per hour. We budgeted for FY '27, $90,000. Kind of, I think we went up like a few bucks, just like it'll go up a few bucks. $88 an hour times 24 hours times 52 weeks is $109,824, which is $19,824 more. So we love the sheriff's department. They help us an awful lot. I just want to kind of start a discussion of the 24 hours. Should I have a conversation with Sheriff Gully where that might be some weeks are fewer than 24 hours to kind of offset that? I have a feeling we'll always kind of go over on the sheriff budget if we can't get the contract during the budget season.
When you say 24 hours, you're referring to?
A week.
A week.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
sorry, 24 hours a week.
I don't think we can cut that.
I don't, I mean, in what situation will we want to, recognizing that, of course, it's a additional cost, but, I mean, have we found that?
Safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need them when we need them. I will say that one thing they do really well is that they have I forget the exact wording of it, it's like a governor's fund they have, that when we do call them for extra things, they try to take the money out of that pot that comes from, obviously, the governor, so we don't get charged for it. So I'm not all that concerned about this. I just kind of wanted to let you know that $88 per hour. I did ask him, because in the contract says if gas goes over $4 a gallon, there would be a conversation of a surcharge. So I asked Sheriff Gully via email, it's over $4. Are we going to do that? And he said right now the towns that they're in contract with, they are not. But he would reach out and tell me. Yeah, we got to take the wins that we get. He will tell us if it gets to a point where he has to do that, but he doesn't anticipate having to do that. That's all.
What do you all think?
It's a lot less expensive than having our own police department.
Sure is.
Oh, that, yeah.
Sure is.
Make a good, yeah.
And they have really helped us with this issue that we had with, when we had an attack on Cole Hall, which nobody really talked about, which I think is crazy.
And we had another creep coming in this week. It wasn't that type of situation, but I had to call Scott Legacy.
Yeah, and they're really so good, and they did so right by us during that scenario in which, and they were here so much, and
yeah, absolutely.
And we need them, and I am not one for cutting back hours of policing, I don't think, in this scenario.
Okay. Awesome. Excellent. That's my other business.
Yeah, this is why we cannot scope the fun path. No fun path.
I'll sign it tomorrow.
One day back.
18,000. Was that 18,000 was an increase, correct?
19,000
and change.
Okay.
Yeah.
which is why we can't have this voted for the balance. Or take nice things. Okay. Action items. You were gonna reach out to somebody earlier too, the Arlington Rescue Squad.
Yep, says it right here.
And Natalie, whose last name I don't know,
Natalie Basile.
and Zoe. Oh, so the community feedback for the sign, I don't know how we are going to do that, but we should think about it and maybe, yeah.
I mean, for the rec department, what did we do on the website for the rec department? Didn't we put a survey out there?
What do you all
We
think?
did a survey about the dog park.
I don't
So
know.
that might be a way to go to,
Could we set it up so people could do little mock-ups of what they would like to see and send it in? Like a PDF or something?
like a,
Did we provide images on the website that you could vote on? Is that
No, we
how the
haven't done
previous-
any-
No,
Okay.
for the park, for the dog park.
Oh, I don't know.
How did we provide a
I
couple
don't
different?
remember
I
what
thought
the
that was
questions
just whether or
were.
not they wanted to have dog park.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or they would use it, or they would be able to devote time to helping.
Oh, yeah, if they would help
Yeah.
build it or whatever.
Right, okay.
If there were an ad hoc committee of 2 people from the board just in charge of figuring out how to get the input, wouldn't that be the easiest thing?
That would be good.
I mean, we don't want to, I can hear it ending up on Jen's and Paula's plates if we don't do that.
I've heard none of the
What if
discussion,
we
so it hasn't
did,
gotten to me yet.
what if we, because I also, feedback is a hard thing, like for something like that. That's really like, maybe an idea is a few mock-ups and then we let people vote on that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Limit the number of options.
And maybe in the next week,
Where do we get the mock-ups?
I don't know. Somebody in town.
Who did so there was a recent sign that was installed at the park, correct?
Yes.
And who did that?
Howard Park, the Howard Park
At
sign?
Howard Park, yes.
Daly's did it.
They
And
did
that
the
was, and the
design?
recreation committee
That was meant
designed
to
it,
look like that sign, the sign out here.
because it has the green and the blue.
The sign
Right.
out here was
The
designed
one
to
outside,
match. The
out here
temporary
was
one
meant to
here.
match the one at Howard Park.
But it
who-
doesn't fit the aesthetic of the
Nobody
area.
had it.
Oh, yeah, it's not right for
That's a
here.
given. Yeah.
Right.
Not right for here.
Well, you've had the idea of maybe doing a contest. Let people mock up signs, send them in as PDFs, we post them, give them a number, people can vote on them.
That could be fun.
That can be fun too.
Do we think people will do that?
Yes,
Okay.
I think they will,
Jen has a question or comment?
for good or bad.
We really want a sign that's very similar to what's there. We want people to be able to read it when they're driving by. And if we have a contest, they're gonna come out beautiful,
Yeah,
but
Not super legible and accessible.
exactly.
So we do have to worry about accessibility pretty much. It's like you said, Marlene, that it's nice that you can really see it when you're
There's
driving
not a lot of
by.
information on it.
It's not that I love that,
Town
but like just
offices.
something that is clear.
Yeah.
Maybe we do come up with like, maybe we ask somebody who knows how to use that product.
And maybe we make the parameters like, this
Photoshop.
is everything it can say on it.
Canva or something, and it could have like a few different options, and then a font that maybe matches that Shaftsbury shirt kind of font, like more of a serif font.
Or a font that matches
Font
the
that
sign
matches
that's already
the
out
dentist.
there.
Yes, that's a good idea.
For
And the
the,
color palette, like,
to match the
The dental
dentist
office.
office.
yeah, that's a good idea.
it's gotta be.
It's gotta be cohesive, yeah, I agree.
Really should be.
Okay, so,
Give it some thought. I think we need to brainstorm a little bit.
okay, should we revisit it in 2 weeks?
I think that's a good
Everybody think
idea.
about it a little bit. It's not a matter of urgent pressing need, there's a sign. So, okay,
And everybody sees it. And it's
Everybody
very,
sees it.
very good advertisement.
they do see it.
And I have to revise the LEMP and send it to Paul tomorrow and send it into the state. So
And
that's my
then-
action item.
The executive session, so we're going to enter executive session, it's a personnel matter. And I do not believe we're taking any action, so you're done. You are done. We are not done. So I would call for a motion to enter executive session.
We're going into executive session. There's nothing but closing the meeting out.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 8:19, you got it.